Deep frying a Thanksgiving turkey has become a beloved tradition for its irresistibly crispy golden skin and juicy, flavorful meat. But this Southern-inspired cooking method comes with a significant risk if not done correctly. In this episode, we talk to Frank Machuca, a store manager at Lowe's, as he guides us through the fiery dangers of deep frying turkeys. We'll explore the risks involved, and we'll share some essential safety tips to ensure your Thanksgiving feast does not turn into disaster. From preventing oil spills to avoiding fire hazards, we will cover everything you need to know for a safe and delicious holiday, plus some bonus tips to keep your Christmas celebrations just as merry. Tune in as we discuss some sobering statistics like an average of 2,300 fires in residential building fires were reported on each Thanksgiving Day between 2017 and 2019, according to the U.S. Fire Administration. Cooking, by far, was the leading cause of all Thanksgiving Day fires, according to the agency, with over $15 million in annual property damage linked to frying mishaps. In this episode, we will arm you with the knowledge you need to know to enjoy your holiday meals safely.
Welcome to the Latino Business Report. This podcast covers business, people, and issues of the day from a Latino perspective. The Latino Business Report is brought to you by TAMAC, the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. TAMAC is the leading Hispanic business organization in Texas since 1975. Now for your host, J.R. Gonzalez.
It's time for another episode, folks, and today we have with us Frank Machuca. Frank is he's a manager with Lowe's, been a friend of mine for a while, and he's my go-to guy when I have a problem. Anytime I need something fixed, moved, corrected, I have my own do-it-yourself type project that I usually screw up, I call Frank. He has all the answers. So we've asked him on this show today because, as you know, holiday season is upon us, and there's a lot of things that we need to do. So, Frank, thank you for being here.
Oh, absolutely, JR. Thanks for having me here. It is great to be here with you today.
Well, Frank, thank you again, and I want to talk a little bit about holiday and the safety. I mean, every year it never fails. You see all kinds of stuff in the news about people either dying or doing severe injury to themselves or trying to almost burn their house down or electrical fires. So what we want to do today is talk with you about a little bit of tips so the listening audience can maybe get a few pointers of how not to injure themselves or to do harm to them or their families this holiday season. Since Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and I am looking forward to it, let's talk about that. Because one of the things that I know happens a lot is people like to fry turkeys. And even though they come out really good, that frying can be dangerous if not done properly. So, as we look at that, I wanted to name this episode "How Not to Burn Your House Down While Frying a Turkey," but we've opted for something else. So, Frank, tell us a little bit about not the dangers. Tell us about the precautions a person should take when trying to fry a turkey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. JR, it's a happy time of the year. It's a festive time. Lots of family coming over, and more.
Well, Frank, it's happy and festive if you like your family members.
Absolutely. Let's hope that we do, right?
Okay, let's clarify that first. Okay, it can be stressful.
I will tell you. So more and more people are opting for frying a turkey rather than doing the traditional in the oven or even smoking it, right? So as we talk today about safety in frying a turkey, we want to make sure we keep some things, some safety precautions in mind, so that people don't get discouraged from doing it, right? So the very first thing that you want to talk about when you're frying a turkey is picking the location where you're gonna set your turkey fryer.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you are not indoors anywhere, right? Especially, I think the most common area where people make the mistake is to go in their garage if the weather's not great, or they're trying to shield themselves from whether it's rain or snow or wind, right? So you want to be in a completely open area. That way, if something happens, then you've got room to move around and get things under control. So number one, pick a spot that's open. Yeah, absolutely, right? Look, and then you want to make sure you have the right equipment, right? You want to make sure you have a turkey fryer that's designed that's big enough for the turkey that you're going to fry, and that one of the big precautions that you want to take is that you want to make sure that the oil doesn't spill over into the fire and then it creates a bigger fire, right?
And Frank, there's a special oil you use, right? Because I was at the store the other day. I was thinking, well, maybe this year I'll fry a turkey. Then I saw the price of that oil. I go, oh hell no, I'm not going to fry a turkey. I'm going to stick it in the oven. Why is that oil so expensive?
Yeah, no, look, absolutely, it's definitely something that you're going to make an investment in. And so the reason you want to use special oil or turkey frying or frying oil in general, right? It's because it just has a higher temperature burn set point. So if you don't use the correct oil, then as you get it hot, the risk for fire increases. Your oil is gonna start smoking. Your turkey's not gonna taste great, and then you create a fire hazard. So you want to make sure that you're using that you're using peanut oil, canola oil, which has a higher burn temperature on it.
And if you're confused, just go to the store and get the stuff that says oil for frying.
For frying, yeah, absolutely. You can usually get the containers. I'm going to plug those in, but you can get them at any of the major retailers that are already pre-measured, mostly what you're going to need. Just out of precaution, you may want to get 2 of those bottles because sometimes it just doesn't quite cover the turkey, and nothing's open on Thanksgiving Day. So just make sure you get enough, but not too much.
Okay. Me being me and not liking to spend a lot of money sometimes, question, can you reuse that oil? Like, can you save it for Christmas and fry another turkey at oil? Or will it go, or does it not save well?
You can. There's some precautions that you have to take on how you store it back in the container. You definitely would want to filter the oil to make sure that you don't get any crumbs in there, which would kind of give it that rancid taste later on. So you can do it. Another piece of advice that I would make, and I try to do for me, is maybe try and kind of group up with the neighbors or a family member that also wants to do a fried turkey, and then you're doing more than one, right? So now you're getting the most use out of it. That's another way of making sure that you get the most use out of it. So then now you're splitting the cost, right? So now you're getting.
What do you mean splitting the cost? I tell my neighbor, you buy the oil, you bring the turkey, I'll fry it for you. That way I get mine done for free.
Well, you want your neighbor to think that you're splitting the cost with them, right? You put in the labor.
Let them think what they want to think. Okay, as long as they get their fried turkey. Now, one of the things you probably want to do is also have a fire extinguisher stand handy, right?
Yeah.
One that will deal with that type of grease fire.
Absolutely, right. So you've got a clear area, you've got a pot that's big enough, you've got the right kind of oil. You want to make sure that you have the right burner, the right fryer, right? Most new turkey frying burners will have a safety device on it as well, where if it gets too hot, it'll auto shut off. And then you mentioned, you want to have a fire extinguisher that's designed for grease fires, right? So you want to make sure that you do not pour water on a grease fire, because you're just gonna make it worse. So no water.
Grease and water do not mix well. Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to make sure you have a fire extinguisher.
Well, with that said, too, you want to make sure that turkey is thoroughly thawed out and dry, and you do not, by no means, do not want to stick a frozen turkey into that hot oil.
Oh no, absolutely not. I think as you go and do your research, you can look at videos of things that happen anytime there's any kind of moisture. But one of the worst enemies of an accident or an incident happening with the fried turkey is if you have any sort of ice buildup. So you want to make sure that you're 100% thawed out. Good idea is to just make sure that you pat it down. Make sure you get into the cavity. Make sure there's no ice buildup. There's no moisture buildup. Otherwise, if you got ice in there, it is not going to be a pretty scenario. Yeah.
So make sure. You can season it and everything, but make sure that bird is dry.
Absolutely.
From any moisture, and especially in the cavity area, because a chunk of ice can get hung up in there. You may not want to go up there and probe or look in there, but that has to be dry. Okay. Good safety tip. When we're looking at this, if a wet turkey or a chunk of ice would be caught in the cavity and that did hit that grease, what would happen? That thing just kind of.
Yeah, look, so it's like any grease fire. Once you introduce water into it, it becomes you get a lot of splatter, you get a lot of boil over. So specifically, if you talk about ice and it goes in there, it will more than likely could make the turkey explode, and then now you've got burning hot oil going everywhere, right? And we'll talk about personal,
Equally, okay.
yeah, we'll talk about PPE, personal protective equipment here
Well,
in a minute. But then if you have some moisture in it, depending on the level of moisture that you have, as you start to lower the turkey into the oil, then you'll start to see a lot of bubble, a lot of boil over, and it could cause the oil to spill over into the fire. And then now you're dealing with suspended turkey. Now you're dealing with splattering of oil, and then you're dealing with the potential boil over. So you just want to make sure that you take all the steps that you can to eliminate that from happening. So water, eliminate it.
so be precautious. To some of my listeners out there who I know who you are, do not try to blow up a turkey on Thanksgiving just to see what it'll do. Okay?
Yeah, not
Which
recommended.
I would probably also recommend if you're going to be drinking, and there's nothing wrong with that on a holiday, but do it after you cook the turkey.
Yeah,
Not
no,
necessarily.
absolutely, absolutely. So if anyone wants to research, there is an actual gadget that you can build with an A-frame ladder and a pulley system, right? That you can attach a rope to the actual turkey triangle, and you can lower it from a distance. It's a little complicated for me, but if anybody wants to Google it, it'll show you on there how you can build a pulley system. You don't have to do that, but it is something that came a couple years ago. You can absolutely still just do it by hand.
Okay, seems like a lot of work for a fried turkey, but sometimes it's worth it. So you mentioned clothing, personal protection type stuff. That is probably advised with the chance of splattering hot grease and water coming out of there.
Yeah, so we use the term in the business that I'm in, PPE, personal protective equipment. So it's just good basic common sense. You do not want to have open-toed shoes. You want to wear, you definitely want to be wearing pants or something that's covering up the majority of your legs, long sleeve shirt. I always wear an apron for two reasons. One, because I always
Okay.
seem to get stuff on me, right? But it's also just a good protective. Definitely, I would recommend that you wear and again, we sell all these items at Lowe's. You can get them at other retailers, but the gloves, the high temperature gloves that if you do have to handle that turkey, that it does protect your hands from that heat.
Okay.
Above and beyond, definitely a hat. You just it only takes a little bit, Jr. It's a small
Oh, I know.
splatter.
I mean,
Can you imagine a small splatter at that temperature? It's going to make you react. So you want to make sure you're protected. Honestly, I go above and beyond and put on safety glasses just to make sure
no,
that I don't
makes
get in my
sense.
yeah.
I know I was foolish enough one time to, not too long ago, is to cook breakfast. I was frying bacon and I didn't have a shirt on like an idiot. When that stuff splatters
Yeah.
up, I mean, it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I like the idea of, say, possibly a cap or a hat to wear because, I don't have much hair left, but I don't want to get burned up with a grease fire. I mean, I don't want to pull a Michael Jackson or something. So,
Absolutely.
great. So, guys, I guess the highlights, make sure you have the right oil. Do not make sure you have a safe area away from a structure or a house to cook it. Use the proper equipment, the proper oil. Protect yourself and do not be messing around because it's serious stuff. Because every year, Frank, and you know as well as I do, you're always reading in the paper or hearing on the news how many homes burn and how many people are seriously injured because they did not take the proper precautions when frying a turkey.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. I think if you follow just those steps, and just know that it's an activity that it's perfectly doable, but if not done correctly, could end up in chaos. So, and once it's done, tastes great, a little bit of a different taste to it, and
yeah,
then after the first time, you'll know whether you want to do it
you
again or
got it.
not.
You got it.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it being a two-person job? At least having somebody there to spot you or to make sure things go well, and
Oh,
not
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
okay,
You want to have someone there to help you. One of the most vulnerable time is when you're lowering the turkey into the frying oil for the first
right?
time, and that's, I usually have a pretty long hose away, that puts the propane tank away from the actual burner. So if something goes bad, then it is shut off really quickly, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can take a lot of safety precautions. I
Uh,
would not do it by myself. I definitely wouldn't.
yeah, because if I'm going to have to drop and roll, I want somebody to call 911.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving. And also, Frank, I'd recommend, especially listeners, I mean, one of my favorite parts of Thanksgiving is the leftovers. Make turkey sandwiches, make open-faced turkey sandwiches, gravy. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with the turkey afterwards. But you want to make sure that you do not leave the food out for a long period of time on Thanksgiving Day to prevent bacteria. You want to refrigerate it, and you don't want to try to keep it for 3 weeks. I mean, just eat as much as you can, but after 4 or 5 days,
Yeah,
throw it
no,
away.
yeah, absolutely. Recommended that you have a good thermometer, food grade thermometer with you. You also want to make sure that you have a long stem thermometer to put into the oil, and all this comes with the kits. I know I'm making it sound overcomplicated, but it comes with the kit that you buy. It's all there. Just utilize it. And follow the steps. There's a lot of
Yeah.
really good guides out there for that.
And if you have trouble reading like I do, watch the darn video.
You
I
can
mean,
you
jeez.
you could watch the video of what to do and what not to do. So.
And of course, Frank, I'll give it another little plug here. A fried turkey can be eaten not only at Thanksgiving but also at Christmas and year round.
It can.
And wherever
It can.
and whatever supplies they need, they can find them at Lowe's.
Absolutely, JR, and absolutely.
There you
So, yeah.
All right, so let's say Thanksgiving is over. We have the Christmas season coming along. There's a lot of safety tips that we can talk about there because, once again, it is just a tragedy. So many people either get electrocuted, they burn their homes, they fall off a roof, they hurt themselves, and that kind of just ruins Christmas when Dad is laid up in the hospital in traction with compound fractures all over his body because he rolled off the second story of a roof.
Right now, nothing ruins it for that time frame, and could be going forward. So yeah, absolutely want to make sure that once the turkey is done, now you're getting into traditionally, JR. Most people, the first thing that they put up on Thanksgiving night, I know there's different traditions, but usually the tree is what goes up. So you're going to be working indoors, putting up your in-house decorations. So just you want to make sure that as you start to take things out of storage, before you plug them in, before you get everything lit back up, that you just check over the wires real quick, make sure that there's no broken insulation where either where it was folded, or you maybe get some sort of critter that like a mouse or something like that got into it, and that all your insulation's intact, that there's no exposed wires, that if any of the bulbs break, that you do replace those. So you just want to make sure that the integrity of your extension cords and your cables is sound, right, to prevent any sort of fire. Yeah.
Because if people are like me, it's going to take a little bit just to unravel all of them, and because they get all twisted up in storage and everything from last year. But I think that's an important thing to remember, folks, is to check your wire to make sure a little raccoon or a mouse or something hasn't been gnawing on it, because you have exposed wire that could really cause a problem. Frank, as they're doing the light, remember the old days when if one light was bad, the whole string wouldn't turn on?
Right, we've come a long ways, JR, with that. So.
We've come along. For those that are younger, I mean, that was brutal. That was my job growing up. Mijo, make sure every light is working. You got 100 feet of lights. That's a bear to do that. So, good tip: get your lights up. Make sure they're in good condition. And what do you have at home, Frank? Do you prefer artificial, or do you prefer a freshly cut tree?
We have done artificial mostly, but live trees or fresh cut trees. They're extremely popular. I would tell you that there's a lot of homes in America that still just love the smell, love the scent, love the activity of going out and picking one out.
I agree. I agree. It adds to the holidays to smell that fresh fir, that pine in the house. But along with that, you have dryness, needles dropping, and a whole other set of problems. So I know, how would you recommend a person properly prepare a artificial tree? No big deal, but, well, it is a big deal. You want to dust them off, make sure they're clean, spread the branches properly. But for a freshly cut tree, what's the best way to handle one of those?
Yeah, so it starts when you're first picking the tree, the family going out and looking at what they like, making sure that you kind of shake the tree up a little bit. If you're losing too many needles, then you want to kind of exercise caution. That may mean that they haven't maintained the tree well. There's most tree farms and tree places have a process, where you maintain the moisture on them, right? And so but you just want to double check them. Once you get them
Hmm.
home, it's a good idea to cut a little piece off the bottom, or whomever you buy it from usually does it for you as well. You also want to make sure that you have a tree stand. Most tree stands have a small water reservoir on the bottom of the trunk, and so you want to put a little bit of
Okay.
moisture down there to make sure that it just, it is a cut tree, but it still kind of keeps drawing on that moisture. So moisture is going to be
Okay.
important.
And what's the purpose of cutting off the end a little bit?
Well, so these trees, depending on where you're at in the country, for us down here in Texas, they're coming from up north. They've been traveling for a long time. So the
Okay.
tree automatically, once it's cut, it starts to heal itself and it starts to dry. So once you cut a little piece of it at the bottom, and it kind of opens it back up where that moisture can come back up. So
Oh, okay. And when you're talking moisture, you're not talking like a little spritz or a sprayer. You're talking water in
yeah,
that reservoir. An inch or two of water down there.
yeah, the tree stand should have a small reservoir that you want to make sure that you put some water in there to make sure that you keep as much moisture as a cut tree will hold.
Okay. And then two, personal experience here. When it comes to trees, and if you're a cat owner, that can be a challenge as well. Some of those cats get really curious.
Yeah, you want to think about who's gonna be around the tree. Definitely pets. You also want to think about children. You want to think about the type of ornaments that you're using. If breakage, glass, that type of thing, usually not
Hmm.
recommend around babies, or at least keep them at a little bit higher height. You mentioned pets as well. Um, Cut trees. You also, that you want to make sure you tighten up the bolts around the corners to make sure that you're going to want to really drive those bolts into the trunk so that it doesn't become loose later on, right?
Got it.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, decorate it, make it look great. All the family traditions. Just make sure that you think about who's going to be around there, who's going to be around the tree.
Makes sense. And when it comes to lighting the tree, I know you have some tips for that as well, or some things not
Yeah,
to do.
look, this is a big one, Jr. We talk a lot about it. A lot of times, you walk into retailers and you see these massive displays. But there's a lot of precaution that goes into how we light those. So there's some terminology that we like to use. So number one, make sure that you use the proper type of, if you're using splitters or if you're using surge protectors, right? Most of them are equipped with some sort of trip mechanism, whether it's a fuse or a reset. If it resets, try to find out why it's doing that. So just don't overload that. That's one of the number one things that happens, right? Too many things plugged into one surge protector, right? So split the power as much as you can. Another big thing that happens, we call this daisy chaining, right? Where you're putting one surge protector and another surge protector, and now you've turned one plug into 16 plugs, right? It'll work.
Daisy, it's
It,
called daisy
it's
chaining.
called daisy chaining. You do not want to
Okay.
daisy chain. You do not want to daisy chain things that are not designed to be that way. So just again, a great
Okay.
example of that is going to be plugging one surge protector into another one, or a surge protector in the middle of an extension cord. Right? Try to split up as much as you can, and just to make sure that you're not overloading those circuits.
Yeah. And
There,
if I mean, well, I can see a person will go, well, I don't need another cord. I'll just plug this over here and it'll work. Yeah, it's worth the investment to buy another cord so you're safe instead of just putting too many connections into one, because that could
right.
that could go south on you.
Yeah, and usually where the fire happens, when that happens, it's you're stressing the insulation on the wire. And that's creating heat, and that's where the fire starts, right? It's just there's just a lot of accelerants in a home And so once that wire gets hot, it could ignite, and then now you've got a fire in your hands. And so you just want to take the precaution that so that doesn't happen.
You don't need a Christmas vacation happening in your living room.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
All right. So good precautions there. So let's go to the exterior now of the house, which is I always do late, or if I can find somebody to do it for me, I will, because that's just a pain.
Yeah.
Frank, I tell you what, and I'll make a confession here, is that one year, I don't remember the year exactly, but I was on the roof, hanging lights, and I wasn't paying attention, and I slipped, and I rolled off the damn roof. When I hit the when I hit the driveway, that hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's funny now, but it wasn't at the time. Fortunately, I didn't break anything. But I think the listeners need to know that yeah, you're courageous and you're brave and all that, but don't be stupid. I mean, take the proper precautions with the ladder. Have somebody spotting you. Be up there, and just be safe because
Yeah, you're going to be coming off the ground. Anytime you come off the ground, you're going to want to make sure that you are on even footing, that you're on solid ground. But before we talk about that, Jr., one more thing on the inside. Just want to remind everyone that October is safety month, so now you get into November. So make sure that you have checked your fire extinguishers inside the house. Make sure that you have checked your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. Test the batteries on them. Make sure that they're good. Change the batteries if you can. And just test them. Make sure that that's all good. Should anything go wrong, you want to make sure you get a warning ahead of time, and then you're able to get things under control, right? So before we go outside, I just want to kind of plug that in. Outside, yeah, you mentioned it, right? So you're going to be decorating the edge of your home. That's going to get you off the ground, right? And the higher you go, the more the danger increases. You're going to be around trees, right? And depending on the setup of your home and how your power was brought in, it could be it was brought in overhead, right? You just got to be aware of your surroundings. Where's the wires? What is the make sure when you're moving the ladder around, you're not gonna touch any of those live wires. And you mentioned it coming off the ground. It's just, I don't care if it's a 2 foot fall, or obviously the higher you go, the more it's going to hurt, and the more potential for danger. But yeah, you want to make sure that you have someone helping you if you're off the ground.
Yeah. And what I'm learning the hard way, the older I get, the more it hurts when you fall.
and the longer it takes to heal.
Yes, it does. You hit the ground. You hit the ground faster. So, but I'm assuming what you're talking about for the inside daisy chaining. You don't want to do that on the outside either.
No, you want to follow the same precautions when it comes to exposed wires, broken insulation, and making sure that you're not overloading circuits. Here's another big thing, right? So you're outside now, and now you're adding the component of the elements. So now you're adding moisture to the whole picture, right? So you want to make sure that everything that you're using for outside decoration is rated for outdoor use, because some decorations, some plugs are not rated for that. So, as the element hits them, it could be a potential for a shock hazard. It could be a potential for a fire starter. Now, there are different things for example, connections. There's when you're connecting one extension cord to another, there are some moisture boxes that you can put in between there to make sure that you make them moisture resistant or moisture proof. You just depending on how far you want to go into it, but you want to take that into consideration. Ice, snow, rain. Sometimes just to do, just a little bit of moisture, just just like we said with the turkey, right? Oil and water don't mix. Water and electricity, they don't mix, right? So you want to make sure you are using the correct equipment for outside.
Right. Especially if you have children around. I mean, you don't need the kids during the day playing with it, or I mean, there's so many things that can happen. I mean, it's a great time of year. It's very festive. You said families and the holidays, but the last thing you want to do is to have your kids or a family member injured.
Absolutely. It would be awesome if we didn't have to talk about this, JR. But statistically, these things happen. So if we can prevent one or two of these incidents happening, it's great. So just good
Yeah.
caution.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a shame we have to talk about it, but it's important because I've come to the conclusion, Frank, that common sense is not that common.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not that common.
Unfortunate.
So, outside, the lights, the thing. Any other things? I mean, this has been very helpful. I know I've learned a few things from talking to you this afternoon. As far as things not to do, the whole daisy chaining, okay, guilty.
Yeah.
The not securing my ladder properly, guilty. The whole frying thing, I stick it in the oven. I don't fry.
I hear you.
But I've had it before. Well, let me ask this: which do you prefer, Frank?
Look,
oven baked, fried, or smoked?
Me personally, I still lean to the fried turkey. That is my go-to.
Okay.
My opinion is that it retains more of the moisture. But there's some phenomenal cooks out there. They've been doing it for a long time. I know my mother bakes a mean turkey, and so does my wife.
Yeah.
So we try to do one of each, right? But
so does your wife really cook a good turkey, or do you felt you had to say that because you complimented your mother?
She cooks a good turkey, and you got to have tamales for Thanksgiving, right? So
always, it's not a Thanksgiving meal unless you have tamales. You got to have tamales at Thanksgiving, Christmas. Tamales are kind of year round, especially as the weather gets cooler, and there's some great places that have tamales, and there's a lot of people I know, such as your wife, that makes some excellent tamales that'll provide them to folks over the holidays. So as we look at this, Frank, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. Any closing comments you want to do? Kind of a wrap up, and just people, be smart about this. And Frank, I'm turning it over to you for any last words of wisdom from the man with the plan.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me here, JR. It's festive time of the year. We want to enjoy with the family. We want to make sure we make great memories. If there's a faux pas, we want to make sure we walk away from it. But we do want to make sure that we're safe. And just be aware of your surroundings. Last but not least, one of the things that I would just say from a holiday safety, protect your belongings. With a lot of packages being delivered this time of year. I would recommend investing in a good doorbell camera. A really simple idea that I've done. I actually put a small box. It's like a small kennel right outside of my garage, or right outside of my front door. And I asked the delivery person to put it in there. You can put it in their instructions. And so far, I've been lucky to not lose a package. So protect your packages, protect what you've ordered. If somebody really wants it, they're going to get it. But at least try to make it a little bit difficult, right, for them. But and you can also invest in a good doorbell camera or a good perimeter camera.
So some floodlights and stuff I know makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in that, you also have that can also be available at Lowe's.
At Lowe's, absolutely.
At Lowe's, you got to buy Lowe's.
Yeah, but other than that, JR, thank you for having me here. Hopefully this was helpful. And you can go into any Lowe's and the folks there will answer any of your questions.
Perfect. I know there's very, very attentive staff there and very knowledgeable, so they can help you set up. So, Frank Machuca with Lowe's, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is J.R. Gonzalez. You've been listening to the Latino Business Report. You can find us at latinobusinessreport.com, where we have our entire library of podcasts, and you can also find us on YouTube. If, in fact, you like what you hear, give us a like, give us a comment. We love to hear from you. Till then, guys, be safe. Remember, common sense is not that common, so don't be... Ay, mi gente. Just look, be smart, be safe, deal with your family members. It's going to be okay. And if you have to drink to get through it, after you cook the turkey, okay? Laters, see you next episode. Bye.